Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sedona Psychics. I'm MA,
I'm Jeffrey.
And I'm Relic.
and today we are diving into a magical and ancient topic, divination. So, this is going to be the tools you use to connect with your higher self, with your spirit guides, with souls, whatever it is you need to connect to, whether you've been doing this for years and years and years, or you are just getting started.
And I think one of the really interesting things about divination when you start to dive into this topic is there's just so much history behind this. I mean, pretty much every culture has had some way of kind of looking beyond themselves for answers. So you got, the oracle at Delphi in ancient Greece. You have anything from tea leaf readings and I Ching in ancient China to reading in ancient India. I think I was reading the oldest form of divination that they at least have record of was pyroscapulomancy, where they would read the cracks in the bones of shoulder blades.
Say that 10 times fast.
So there's, again, I mean, there's pretty much has always been some way of kind of looking beyond ourselves for answers. And divination is just that. It's kind of how we seek guidance from the divine.
And people have been going and seeing seers to work with these tools of divination, like since the beginning of time, pretty much is like what we're going with. In that it's why are people doing this is because they want to tap into their intuition. They want to tap into some divine guidance. They are looking to see the patterns that are already existing around them, helping make those connections for themselves to help make life easier, to help figure out what's going on so they can create changes. And using these tools, everything from like tarot cards and oracle cards and palmistry, it's all about getting connection and clarity with your spirits and your ancestors and your angels to move in a good direction for yourself.
So I think we're going to start off with tarot cards and oracle cards. And before I think we even get into like how this stuff works, we want to kind of dispel some of the myths around it a little bit. So I know, Emma, you do a lot of tarot. You want to kind of kick us off? And
Yes, I do. I use tarot as my main tool to bring messages across for my clients. And tarot is more of a structured system. This is going to be a deck of 78 cards. It's always 78 cards, no more or no less. It's also split into a major and a minor arcana as well. Each card has a different symbolic meaning behind it, but also at the same time, myself and other psychics as well have gained more information with the artwork that is on the card or how the energy behind that card as well, too. So for example, I just want to kind of show you guys. So this would be considered a major arcana. So this is the High Priestess here. And then this one would be considered the minor arcana. And those are going to be wands there. So a lot of tarot cards have the same meanings, but again, you can decipher and bring in more information with that as well. There are tarot card decks out there that do have the meanings on them as well. So if you are just learning, you can buy a deck off of Amazon, or you can even go into a spiritual store and actually buy a deck that has the reverse and the upright meanings as well, which also will help learn the tarot a little bit faster too. Also with tarot, I like to throw in some of the things that are kind of taboo about it. This is not Hollywood, guys. We're not going to sit there and tell you when you're going to die. We're not going to sit there and go all into the negative things that are going on in your life. Even the cards like the devil or death are cards just showing that maybe there's an ending to something and there's a transition to a new period. Or with the devil, this is going to be more of like addiction and kind of keeping yourself in this little square of not being able to get out of your comfort zone as well. So the restrictions that you're putting on yourself too. So again, it's not we're going to tell you when you're going to die or anything like that. It's more of gaining the clarity for yourself and the question that you're asking as well.
Tarot is a great tool to step outside of yourself, step outside of your own energy, and see what's happening around you so you can make honest and good choices from a different perspective for yourself. Tarot, it's like tarot won't lie to you either. If there's negative things in your life, tarot's going to let you
Oh
know.
yeah, it'll
We
bring it
all
up.
know that the world isn't full of valleys of unicorns and rainbows and fluffy bunnies that poop glitter and Skittles and stuff. Don't eat the Skittles. But in that, it's like it's a tool that's going to be. There's no such thing as a bad card in tarot. It is all perspective, and it allows people to come in and like some people can be like, I don't want to know anything bad, and usually people that come in and like something comes up that is bad, they're already pretty well aware of it. And sometimes people like ignorance isn't bliss, it's a fuse. And tarot is the one that can show you when it's going to actually go off and explode on you if you don't start paying attention to things.
Right, right. And then with oracle cards, those are going to be a little bit more like to the point of what you're asking or what your message is going to be as well. Relic over there, he works with oracle quite a bit as well too. And a lot of the cards that he has, the message is right there on the bottom of the card.
Yeah. Oracle cards, I think, are a great tool for when you're kind of starting out. So these are a couple examples of some Oracle cards. This is a Starseed deck that I use a lot. And they just have, again, it's got the imagery, but in most cases, Oracle cards are going to have a message. Like this one just literally says, water your own garden. That's the theme of that card, right? And I think Oracle cards are a really good way to start off. I think tarot is a great tool too. Like there's a lot of deep symbolism ingrained in tarot. The kind of current art incarnation of it, I think, has been around for hundreds of years, but there's definitely some kind of clues that that system has been around even longer than that. It's kind of like tarot is kind of the universal story, right? Everybody, I think, can identify with when you look at the major arcana. It's really kind of major life events that tend to happen for everybody at some point. So it tends to be a little bit more specific. Like Emma said, it's usually always the same number of cards. Oracle cards are more open. Like I said, I use Starseed cards a lot, but there's angel cards, right? There's the Celtic Ogum tree oracle deck. So there's all kinds of different kind of themes for oracle decks. And I also tend to think about oracle as kind of like the friendlier cousin of tarot in some ways. Although I think tarot is mostly misunderstood when people think of it as like a scary thing.
And tarot is basically like if you want to see into the future, tarot is one that can help with that. Like I've had people come in and be like, I got 3 different job offers. I don't know which one I'm supposed to take. We can do a tarot spread for each different job offer and kind of see how things are going to play out and help people make a decision about where they want to go. Like, should I move or should I quit and stay at my job?
Yeah, and we'll see where the energy is going with each decision that they have. Yeah.
And that is a great way to use tarot as a tool. And like I like to express like what one of the taboos that comes up with tarot is from the suit Pentacles, coins, which deals a lot with career, education, finances, and home. And where that taboo comes from, I don't think a lot of people realize. The pentacle, the 5-pointed star itself, actually comes from ancient Greek astrologers watching the planet Venus in the sky over the course of 8 years. And when you do that, it actually makes a perfect 5-pointed star. It's actually how the ancient Greeks timed the Olympics every 4 years to the day, and the reason why we have the 5 rings for the Olympic symbol. But because of the negative connotation the Catholic Church had put on it, they couldn't use that 5-pointed pentacle as a symbol. Why is the Catholic Church hating on stars? Because back in the day, you would go see someone who was a seer who could do tarot to get direction in your life. Coins or pentacles upset the Catholic Church because people shouldn't have been going and getting advice from women. They should have been going to church to confess their sins to man. So it was basically a smear campaign that's just lasted a really, really long time, and nobody realized it was just a power and control thing.
Church probably also didn't like that there's a devil card in the tarot.
Or that they were just getting prophetic information from women.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that's that more inward journey. That is a way for more your angels, your spirit guides, your ancestors, like your gods and goddesses. That's a way for them to come in and give you direct messaging, like, hey, you need to work with this, or this is what you need to pay attention to, or this is where your energy's at. Oracle cards tend to be a lot more of that inward journey.
So to piggyback off the like misunderstood thing with tarot, I think the death card is also probably one of the most misunderstood cards in tarot. That one doesn't always signify transformation, shedding the old to make room for the new. And I would say most of the time it's that. I would say, very rarely is that card actually signifying a physical death in some way. It's most of the time I get death card, it's, to me, I see it as a good thing. So it's transformation.
Yeah, it's like you're quitting your job and you're starting one that you're going to like. You're putting a death to the old version of you that got taken advantage of by other people and stepping into your power.
And I'd be willing to bet that card's probably featured in movies more than any other one where they show tarot cards in like movies and TV shows and stuff like that. That's probably the death card comes up more than anything.
And another thing to add on to the taboo thing is you do not have to have somebody gift you your first deck of tarot cards.
No, you do not.
This was something that back in the day, a long, long time ago, when tarot cards were not easy to come by, that was a thing. And in some cultures, it is that, like, you need to have somebody gift it to you. But where we're at now with a lot of this stuff, you can easily walk into a spiritual store or go on Amazon or go on a website and pick out a tarot deck that you are being drawn to. You are always being drawn to that deck for a reason. And normally you will work very well with that deck too. Just want to clear the air with that one. There's no need to wait for somebody to gift you one.
Is you could probably go to almost any bookstore. Barnes and Noble has a tarot section now. All right, so we're gonna switch gears, I think, a little bit and talk about pendulums and dowsing rods and all that stuff. So, Emma, you want to kick us off on that?
Yeah, so I've used pendulums and dowsing rods myself in readings, and these are going to be used more for like the yes or no questions as well too. So you can sit there and you can use whatever hand you want. I like to use my dominant hand and hold the pendulum, and you can ask it to show you a yes, and it will, either go back and forth or side to side, and then ask it to show you a no, and then again back and forth or side to side. And that can help you get a little bit more clarity on more of like the yes or no questions. But also remember, be very specific with the yes or no questions, or else your pendulum or your dowsing rods are going to be like, we don't know. We don't know what's going on. So be specific with those questions as well. And as far as like dowsing rods, so dowsing rods have actually been used for a very, very, very long time. Way back in the day, they actually used dowsing rods to find water, and they actually just used like regular sticks that fell off trees. And they would walk and walk, and then the sticks would slowly start to cross over, and that's where the water is. So it's almost kind of the same concept with the exchange of energy that's going on as well. Again, like if the rods cross, it's a yes. If they, open apart, it's a no.
Yeah, I think dowsing rods and pendulums are another one of those tools that tends to be a little bit easier for people that are new to all this stuff to step into using. And I think it's just something that you got to kind of let yourself play around with a little bit. And pendulum, some people I've even heard say their yeses and nos are different, right? It might be a clockwise spiral for yes, counterclockwise for no. Mine seems like it's pretty much the same as yours, Emma, but I think pendulums it's a kind of personal, individual thing. So you got to play around with it a little bit.
It depends on the person.
I do human pendling, and these two say I'm spiritually dyslexic because when I do a human pendling, like back for me is yes and forward for me is no. And they're like, that's the exact opposite of we do. So it's like to each their own what works for you. And one of the reasons why you're doing pendling is to get an answer to a question you have. Like, hey, should I go out Saturday night? Is it going to be a good time? No. Okay, I'm going to stay home. It's a way to get clarity, especially sometimes if you're an overthinker or can be an over worrier. It helps ground your energy to give you clarity. And in that, it's like when I'm doing human pendulum, it's like I can literally feel that energy pushing me or pulling me back or forward. And when you're tapped in with your guides and you're with your ancestors and with the angels, it's like you can get answers really quick about certain situations, especially if like your solar plexus chakra or your gut isn't giving you a direct answer. You're like, all right, maybe am I talking myself out of this? Do some penduluming. And whenever I ask questions, I always try and ask the question 3 times the same way to make sure I'm getting like the same answer for it.
Right. I mean, being in the Sedona area, I've seen people pull pendulums out of their purses and asking if this food at the grocery store is the right food for them. And I'm sitting there watching it, and the pendulum is giving them answers. And I've watched them put the item in their cart or put it back on the shelf. And I'm just like, that's cool. That's cool.
Teach their
Yeah.
own, teach their
Yeah. I
own.
mean, you could use it for almost anything. And if you haven't ever experimented with a pendulum, you can ask it questions you already know the answers to kind of figure out what your yes and no is. Same thing with the human pendulum thing. And when Jeffrey's saying that, you're talking about when you're just kind of standing straight up, feet shoulder width apart, and you're going to either feel you're going to ask the question, you're going to feel kind of a pull forward or a push backwards.
Correct.
Mine is opposite of yours. I kind of feel like I'm falling forward a little bit for yes, and I feel like I'm being pushed backwards for no. But again, there's no wrong way. This is all personal, individual stuff, and I think experimenting is how you figure out how your process works. So
And you can
play
use a
around with it.
necklace that if you don't have a pendulum, you can use your body. And here's the thing, this is also a great way to develop a relationship with your guides, with your spiritual team, letting you know you're looking out and reaching for guidance. And it helps strengthen that bond and helps with that direction. So it's something definitely worth trying, and it's something that anybody can do.
Yep. I like to use my Thor's hammer. So yeah, you could use anything, guys. Don't overcomplicate it. I think MA, earlier you were mentioning you had a ring on a string, right? So it could be almost.
Yeah. I've even used like a ring that I wear all the time and put it on a string and done it that way. I've used pendulums and energy healing as well too. So I've actually held a pendulum over somebody's chakra to see if the chakra itself was balanced or if it needed clearing or anything like that. And there's times the pendulum will just spin and spin and spin, so I know that chakra's good. And then there's times this pendulum just like goes, eh. So there's so many different things you can use, personal items, and again, you don't have to go out and spend tons and tons of money and get things that everybody else has. You can use things that are personal to you.
So, relic. We're switching gears here. We're going to start talking about some casting and some runes and some charms and a little bit of I Ching and stuff. And Relic here at the Crystal Magic Psychic Center is our rune expert. This guy could talk to you for 6 hours and still not even like empty his rune cup for you.
I think we've done that before, actually.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, if we're talking runes, you're definitely talking my language. So pun fully intended. So runes are an excellent tool for divination. It's similar, used in a similar way that the way tarot is used. You can kind of ask questions, see what energy is around you. They are a practice that comes from Nordic culture. So they're small symbols. They're typically inscribed on little pieces of wood or stone or crystal. And basically, they're a really old alphabet. They're actually very, very old Norse writing system, but their letters also held deep symbolic meaning. So it can be used as a way to kind of see what energy is around you, see what energy you have to work with, what's coming in for you. And one of the cool things about runes also is Nordic culture looked at like your fate is not set in stone, right? So you kind of can see where you are headed, but you always have that opportunity to kind of turn the wheel of the ship a little bit and change your course. And then obviously you'll end up in a different place. If you want to see another example, these are some that are carved into labradorite, so crystals. And crystals is another thing that you could do casting with. So when you work with runes as a divination tool, you're going to tend to cast them. So you reach into the bag of the runes, you pull a few out, you kind of toss them out, kind of at random. Think of it like, shaking a cup of Yahtzee dice and letting them fall out onto the table, right? So you kind of allow the randomness to be where spirit gets to put their hand in and kind of help the right message come through. I do this mostly with runes, but there are other types of casting. And if you're a nerd for this stuff and you want to know, it's all claromancy, basically, is the kind of umbrella term for casting. So it could be runes, but it could also be charm casting, where you have lots of different objects that have a symbolic meaning for you. Or it could be crystal casting, which I know is something that Jeffrey, you've been getting more into lately. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I really want to talk about that. Casting is so unique. It's similar to when you're doing a tarot spread. It's the wrong thing can't come out, especially when you're working with seers or psych. It's basically they're using their anchor with spirit to like allow your spirit guides and your ancestors to come through to really help like pull the runes out that you need to see, to pull out the crystals that are going to show you how to balance and clear your energy or show you what path you're going to be going on. And when same thing with tarot and the oracle cards, there's such a way that you can trust in what the message is. It's just uncanny how it always comes out to be what people need based on that randomness. And it's really makes you start to see connectivity and like that the fact things aren't really that random. And there is a way.
So some things I've noticed too with people who actually do charm casting, that is really used with your intuition as well, because with charm casting, the person who has the charms actually puts the meaning behind that specific charm as well. So I also feel with charm casting, it's a lot of like adding that intuitive aspect to it as well. Not saying that it's not intuitive with crystals and runes too, but with charm casting, from what I've seen and kind of researched myself, that person who owns the charms puts the meaning of each charm because they collected it. They, grabbed that charm for a reason. And who knows, that one charm could be meant for just one specific person and it comes out in one pull and never comes out again. You never know.
And casting is one of these things like every tribal culture pretty much that ever existed on planet Earth. They would cast bones. They would read those signs. This is something how when they would plant, when they would sail, when they would do things, when Norse Vikings would attack, what moon they would not attack, when they would do all different things. They would get so much direction for almost everyday life. It was like their Google back then.
Yeah, it's another one of those systems too that just it goes way, way back. I mean, there's writings from about 2,000 years ago from Tacitus, who I think might have been Greek, I'm not sure, but he wrote about like he saw Germanic people doing this when he kind of went on his travels. So it's definitely one of those really old systems. Honorable mention for I Ching too. I Ching is another thing that you can do as casting. Now, I Ching traditionally is actually done with yarrow sticks, which is not really casting. That's a totally separate process, which I'm not even going to try to get into right now. But when you're doing I Ching coin casting, basically you throw 3 coins 6 times, and depending on how they land, that allows you to kind of interpret the I Ching reading. I Ching's another one that's been around for like 3,000 years. None of this stuff is new, guys. It's just coming back into style. So, all right. So I think we're going to talk astrology a little bit now.
I'm like tarot. Everybody knows like what's your sign?
I'm a Leo.
I'm an Aquarius. I'm a water bearer.
Leos.
So I put out and I get to put it all out. That's my job. No, astrology is a very useful tool, and simply it's about alignment of energies that you can see like the blueprint for your life with the planets and the moons and all the other those things coming into play. Basically, it takes your birth date, the time you were born, the where you were born, and you can get a birth chart. And there's different types of astrology out there, but basically it is lining up your birth energy with where certain planets were in the solar system. And that's how predictions for your life of good times and low times are like times of learning can be expected. And so you can prepare for those things.
Right, using those planet placements as an advantage for yourself as well. So, for example, Mars just came out of Leo. All of us Leos were going through it. We felt like we had to really stand up for ourselves. We were very argumentative. We were very like, we need to be heard. We need to be heard. I don't care how you feel. We need to be heard. And so that was an opportunity for Leos to either approach that same, oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? That same cycle differently, or are you going to react the same way? So this is kind of how astrology comes into play of how much have you learned from these past cycles, because guess what, you're going to go through it again until you finally start reacting differently and moving with the tides of the energy of the planets instead of against.
And different planets have very different energies.
Right.
So, you know, when you're working with the planet Venus, that's going to be a lot of emotion. And different planets have different things. And one thing that seems to come up especially a lot in Sedona, could for the viewers, could we please explain retrograde? Like, please.
Yeah, why is Mercury always messing with everyone?
I think at this point everybody kind of creates it, and Mercury's like, what did I do?
For the record, I really like Mercury.
But pretty much retrograde is when the planet is going in the opposite direction of what it normally does. And that's from like our perspective, our view. So, when the planet's moving forward and everything is good, everything free flows, blah, blah, blah. But if it starts to go retrograde, then this is when things start to get uprooted again. And this is where also cycles that are repeated come up again. And again, how you're going to learn and react differently to that cycle with it being in retrograde.
It's basically a spiritual monkey wrench that you have to deal with to evolve.
Right. And since we are talking about astrology, we might as well throw human design in there, because human design is a system that also incorporates astrology, although it also incorporates your chakra system and I Ching and quantum physics. And this is another kind of system that is just a way to kind of like look at the energy that you came in with, right? What's the blueprint? How did the cosmic bodies affect your energy when you kind of came in? And it can help you understand why you do things you do, how you relate to other people, how to kind of make the best use of your energy. And I think human design and astrology both tend to be styles that take a little bit longer to explain and do readings for and everything. So we probably won't get into a ton of the details of that stuff today, but we could do a future episode. If you guys are interested, let us know in the comments, and we could do a whole episode on astrology and human design and stuff.
We could definitely bring some people in from the center here that do astrology to really give you the lowdown on that one.
Yeah. You do a lot of MA is mediumship. And I think that's something that people come into the center looking for a lot. But I think sometimes they don't even know that it's called that. They know the experience they want to have, but they don't really know the terminology. So you want to like just kind of define mediumship a little bit and tell people what it is.
So mediumship is more about connecting to spirits, loved ones who have passed on, spirit guides and ancestors as well, too. And a lot of this is shown through the medium as, it can be smell, it can be a feeling, a sensation, it can be snippets of pictures in their mind and their third eye. And a lot of the times people come in and they think they are going to get a Teresa Caputo experience. They think that
Who is
she's a very wow. She's a very, very, very good medium. I think she's a very awesome woman. But the way that it's portrayed on TV is something that's not what it is. There's a lot of editing, there's a lot of cutting, there's a lot of things that you're not seeing behind the scenes that is actually going on.
Wait, you mean they're editing TV?
Say
knew?
what? Reality?
Who knew? But yeah, so when you're coming in for a mediumship, wow, guys, my brain is not braining today. When you come in for a mediumship session, don't come in there with a crap ton of expectations, because guess what, buddy? you're not going to get nothing, because by you having all of those expectations, you're creating an energetic block for that medium to connect with you and that other soul that is trying to come through as well. If you come in and you already have the intention that you want to connect with your mom, guess what? Mom's coming in with you and she's already going to be there. So the more open you are to receive the information from the other side, no matter who it is, the better your session is going to be also. And there are times where mediums do connect with lower vibrational souls and the darker things that also do come through as well. So keep that in mind also. But again, set the intent. I want to speak to so and so is most likely going to come forward and give you the message that needs to come through.
The power of intention when you're doing mediumship, that if the client comes in, you're like, I know who I want to talk to. I'm 100% positive that this is going to happen and I'm going to connect. Like being open that, like with that energy allows things to flow very easily. Sometimes people just like keep it as a secret to themselves during the reading that they want mediumship, and hopefully like their friend or past relative is just going to be really loud in our head and we're just going to let them bust through the door and start talking to us through us. And that's just not how it works. Sometimes, like if you don't tell the reader that you want mediumship and this is who you want to talk to, it doesn't come through, because it's pretty much like throwing a party but not inviting any of your friends, just thinking they love you a lot and they'll show up. And it's if you set that intention, be like, hey, like if you're out there, I'm going to Sedona, I'm gonna get a psychic reading. Like, will you please be there? And I've had people do that, and like it's not like we're getting a full-on view and picture of these people. It is very snidbits. It's like 3 frames in a movie sometimes. And sometimes all I've gotten like was just a picture of a mushroom that I know because I'm an outdoorsman. And I was like, I said the name of the mushroom. She's like, oh my God, that's his last name. He's here. How could you possibly know that? And it was just because I saw a picture of a mushroom and said that, but that's how she knew that that man was there. Her friend was keeping an eye on her.
Right.
And that was what she really needed. And it wasn't a lot, but boy, was it enough in that energy.
And it always is enough when I do mediumship with people. We're not sitting here having full-blown conversations with these spirits in our mind. We're getting tidbits of information and visuals and feelings and sensations, and our physical brain is taking longer to process that, which is also why we do kind of get the little tidbits and things like that too. So for instance, I did a mediumship session with somebody who was on hospice, and bed was set up by a window and there was a rose garden specifically there for her. They put that rose garden, yeah, this person had passed. So they literally put this rose garden, they put it in there for her to enjoy while she was on hospice. And this is what the client said to me after I told her this. I said, she's showing me a window and I see roses, and not just red roses, it's many colored roses. And she goes, her jaw dropped. She goes, how did you know that? I said, that's what she's showing me. That's what she's showing me. So for you, this is confirmation that this is who we're really connecting with. And I also ask my clients, I go, do you have questions for this person that we're connected to? Because sometimes, a lot of the time during my mediumship sessions, we get a lot of closure because I ask them, do you have questions for this person, this soul?
It is good to have questions, because I have definitely been in situations where I haven't totally connected with the person that they want. And they're like, do they have anything to say? They're like, I'm like, no. Were they a big talker in life? No, not really.
And so
It's like, he's like, okay, do you have any questions for them? And they're like, no, I just, hi. It's just like, okay. And so sometimes during mediumship, it comes through very plainly, like, I love you. But they
I'm
can,
still
but you
here.
can feel that person can feel that person's energy and recognize it in the room. So it's simple like that, but it definitely does help with closure in a lot of areas when it works with mediumship. But channeling is definitely another way to work with spirit guides, angels, ancestors, past lives.
Channeling I think ends up being, at least the way it's used now, a little bit more of a broader term, where at least the way we use mediumship, that's mostly connecting to loved ones that have crossed over. Mediumship is more connecting to guides in general. It could be extraterrestrial entities, it could be guardian angels, it could be gods, goddesses, deities, but it's just kind of that direct connection with that intelligence. And this is another one that I would say, like, when you're in that type of a setting, don't be afraid to ask specific questions. And even if this is something that you're exploring on your own, if you're doing your own channeling of even just your own higher self or a specific, deity, entity,
What
ask
would you say
questions.
channeling is,
I
though?
mean,
How is it different from mediumship?
to me, I just feel like it's a broader term. It encompasses, everything from talking to a spirit guide to talking to a specific deity to your own higher self. Whereas at least the way I usually use mediumship, it's more connecting to a loved one, to a person that was here present. Now they've crossed over.
Okay.
But I think
Channeling,
that both terms are, I mean, it depends on who you ask, right? Some of this stuff gets used interchangeably. I think even Edgar Casey was referred to as a medium, and at least the way we use it, I would say what he did was more channeling because he connected to like an Atlantean or something.
Edgar Casey was referred to as the sleeping prophet in the 50s, I believe. And he would literally, like, he would channel an Atlantean and he would go in and into his, like, lie down on a couch and he would actually, like, basically take a nap, and this Atlantean would come through. And he was known as very good about diagnosing medical illnesses. The Atlantean was like a doctor in Atlantis and could figure out what was wrong with people. And so sometimes when people are channeling, like, they're very much allowing someone or something to come through that is a positive thing for them, but they're very much stepped off to the side and watching it all happen.
Right, yeah, it's kind of more accepting that energy into, like, the physical realm of ourselves to have more of a grounded connection with that being to relay more information also.
And there's other representatives of that around today, like Abraham Hicks is someone who is a channeler, and so is one of your favorites.
You're thinking of Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. And yeah, I would say what Daryl does when he's channeling Bashar is more like what we would call trance mediumship. So that's where, like what you're saying, where you are really, Jeffrey's gone now and somebody else is talking, kind of a thing.
Personalities, mannerisms
You can
change,
see
Right.
things
voice
And,
change
level.
and you'll
physically.
see that with Daryl if you know who I'm talking about. So he channels an entity called Bashar, but his name is Daryl Anka. And if you see interviews with Daryl, he sounds totally different than when he's channeling Bashar. Even, we've had channelers that work here that were that same way. Chris was that same way when she would channel Michael. Like, she sounded totally different. And so that was one of our, which she's still on the website. She does channeling Archangel Michael. So yeah, I mean, channeling could be a wide range of things, and I would even fit at least like the way you do it. I would kind of say past lives could even be kind of channeled. You could channel
Yes.
someone's past life information, which that's something that you get into a lot with people I know.
And that's definitely a form of channeling. I'm definitely opening a energetic line to that past life and allowing information to flow through me, and I'm just a lens that's kind of relaying that information. And again, it's one of those things when you're doing past life recall. I really like it. You're doing it here at the center because it's people are like, do you do past life recall to like release trauma? I'm like, very freaking rarely. I do past life recall to treasure hunt for skills and abilities that you had in your past lives so you can unlock them in this. Like when I'm channeling for past life instance, a woman came in and I was like, why do you want to do archery? She's like, I've been wanting to do archery my whole life, but I ride horses. I, you do realize you're a cavalry archery in the Genghis Khan, the great horde. And she started doing archery off of her horseback. And in 3 months, she was doing it as good as somebody who'd been doing it for 6 years because she knew all the little tips and tricks. That's like spiritual muscle memory. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's a form of channeling where you can unlock things in yourself too. But you are very correct. There's a very broad spectrum because I do not let any deity at this point in time come through and use me as a speaker or a lens. I'll listen and then I'll relay. That's kind of my thing and how I do.
I think all in all, channeling and mediumship just kind of go hand in hand.
Correct.
Speaking of hands, another thing that we do here is palmistry.
Palmistry.
And Mr. Jeffafa, this is one of your specialties.
Yes, I do palmistry. I am the one of the person who does palmistry here at Crystal Magic Psychic Center, and I really like working with palms. It's very unique and different. Palms is all your own energy. It's all you. And when I read palms, I always read both hands, both sides. Your non-dominant hand is your blueprint for this life, and it's what the spirit, the divine, and universe expect to happen. And then your dominant hand is like, oh, the game's actually being played. Because the cool thing about palms is you can see the lines on your palms change based on what you're doing in your life. Short story, really quick. This is back when I was in Minneapolis. I did a palm reading for a gentleman, very well off, like Rolex watch, hand stitched Italian shoes. I was like, you're missing these X's and connections on your hand, and I'm getting little blinks of you chopping wood out in nature with a little muddy Jeep and an A-frame cabin behind you. And the dude freaks out in the reading. He walks out, and I was just like, I don't believe in this. This isn't real. I'm like, okay, you don't have to pay. I saw him a year later out to dinner, like not working at all. He just walks up and slapped a bunch of money in my hand. I was like, "Ugh." He's like, let me explain what happened. I come from a very well-off family. I never had to do physical labor before. When you said you saw me chopping wood, I thought you were trying to make fun of me. He's like, I now own 7 different wood chopping axes. I have a little muddy Jeep and a little A-frame cabin. I'm doing stuff for myself for the first time in my life. I absolutely love it. And all the lines and connections that you said I was missing on my palm have now grown and started making those connections. And I can see my life changing for the positive. That's why I love doing palms. You can literally like, am I making spiritual progress? Oh yeah, I am. Like, wow, I'm about to come to an X, because X's on palms are important like pirate maps. Something's going to happen. So usually earlier in life, like when you see a lot of X's where so this is the lifeline that cruises around here, and this is your headline. So this is a spot where you'll start to see a lot of X's early in life. And that's when you learn stealing's bad and you get your butt whooped by your parents. Cause like, you're like, I'm never doing that again. X marks the spot. Don't do. And then as you get older in life, that's where some of the more positive things can come in. So you can see things that are happening towards you. The other thing that a lot of palm readers don't read is the mounts underneath your fingers and on the other sides of your hand. Mounts very much represent your chakras and your chakra energy. And you kind of want to think of them as inflated or deflated balloons. And the one that I'll go over right now, underneath your pinky, is you referred to as your mount of Mercury, which is your communicator. So that very much represents your throat chakra. So that when that's kind of like deflated and whatnot, you're not speaking your truth. And sometimes you can literally see from the line of ancestry, like your ancestors are trying to reach you. It's like you don't have those spiritual conversations with your God. And like in that you can actually start going back to church or doing more spiritual things, and just how you're holding like the hymn book is going to make that line grow, and you'll start getting that connection to grow. So that's the cool thing I really like about palm.
Yeah, palm reading's fascinating. That's actually one of the styles that I've been drawn to recently and just kind of learning more about for my own sake, for just kind of looking inwardly at my own energy, doing my own palm readings, basically. In kind of reading a little bit about it, I was fascinated that I was one of the oldest ones, because they wrote about palm reading in the Vedic text. So that's like 4,000 years old, something like that. But it pops up over and over in different cultures. Like it's in Egypt, it's in Persia, it's in all these different kind of places. Like they all figured this out independently of each other, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, palm reading's fascinating.
I love how it grows with you though.
Definitely.
Like, I think that's so cool. And learning about palmistry, like back in the day, like I've never really, heard that part. It was more of like this line is this line is that line, blah, 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 blah. And the fact that, the way you do your palmistry and the way that you're explaining it, I think it's so cool how you do both hands, but also at the same time, it grows with you and shows what you've learned, what you still need to learn, and things like that.
And it also shows you that your fate isn't written in stone. Things
Yeah.
can change, because I've seen things on the dominant hand that spirit never even thought were going to be possible. And I've seen people create and change their own destiny through their palms. It's also one of those, there's certain lines where you can see if you're lined up for a quantum jump or a like timeline shift or timeline jump, you can see that on the palms too. And so, yeah, definitely something worth doing an episode about maybe a little bit later on down the road. So that also goes out to all of you. If there's something here that we're talking about today that you guys really like, definitely please feel free to leave something in the comments so we can like dive into these things a little bit
Yeah,
more,
we're
get
open
more
to
specific.
suggestions.
Right. And
Yes.
also, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, too, are services that are here at the Crystal Magic Psychic Center as well. All of our readers are very diverse in many different tools. And we're just kind of like hitting the tip of the iceberg of this stuff. So, like Jeffrey said, you know, as we get more deeper into our podcast, we can go a lot deeper into a lot of these different divination tools and things like that.
But let's wrap up with creating that spiritual space, that divination space. Uh, how about you, Megan? What do you have for that?
I like to set my intention first. I like to, so creating my space, I set my intention of I want clarity on this situation. So I'll sit down, I'll light a candle, take a couple deep breaths, kind of center myself, and then I'll start shuffling my tarot deck, and then either a card will fly out, or I just feel the need to stop and I start flipping cards over and I start just seeing what I'm feeling, seeing what I'm seeing on the cards, and getting my clarity through that as well. But definitely setting the intention for the space is going to be like your number one thing.
Yeah, I think about it like setting the stage, right? We talked about this a little bit in the last episode. When we were talking about balancing your own chakras, clear your own aura, we talked about kind of setting the right atmosphere. So I think a lot of that applies, right? Creating a space where you're not going to be disturbed while you're doing this. Maybe lighting some incense, putting on some music, maybe play a little didgeridoo, whatever you like to do before you get into your divination practice. But it's just about, like Emma said, setting that intention, setting the stage, creating the right atmosphere, and allowing spirit, allowing your higher power, higher self to kind of come through that tool for the guidance that you're looking for.
And feel free to put things in that space. Like Himalayan salt lamps are a great way to clear negative and toxic energy. I'm big on putting crystals in where I do my castings to protect that space, to also help bring in more and positive different energies. Different crystals can do that, but also having like your Buddha or your little statues, things like that.
Yeah, I
That kind
have
of
some
like
that represents
Right.
Odin.
Yeah. Anything to represent the energy that you're trying to bring forward. And then on top of that, too, like with the protection, another cool thing to put in your space, too, you can put it in all four corners of your room or all four corners of that space, is actually organite. So organite is made a lot of the times with resin, but there's a lot of precious metals in there. There's different symbolism that goes in there, also different types of crystals and things like that. And we do have some here at the Crystal Magic Psychic Center as well that are made here locally. So it has some really, really cool energy with it. So organite again is a really good tool to use in that space to work your magic.
And some of organite in general, but some of the ones that we have here are other shapes and stuff too. So there are ones that are big enough that you could like set a tool on it or something, which I guess is almost kind of like consecrating your tools is another thing that you could think about, which would almost be, I guess, like the prequel to even setting the stage and all that. If you have a new tarot deck, a new bag of runes, something like that, a new tool that you're working with, kind of like really putting that intention into the tool. Maybe create a little ceremony for yourself to, really kind of set the intention into the tool, and then you kind of let everything else follow from there.
and keep this space positive. Don't go into this space and like complain about work or people. That is not where you want to bring in that negative energy. That so like make that a positive safe space for you, for your forward progress, for your manifestations. I think that's really important because the energy that you bring can really ripple in a place where you're trying to magnify things.
And again, keep it simple, guys. Like, really keep it simple. You don't have to go out and buy fancy things. You can use simple things you have around your house, things that you already have. And again, it's just all about the intention and the energy that you bring into that space to work with all your tools.
Yeah, the runes that I have that I actually use more often than any of them, I made out of wood that actually a good friend of mine gave me a piece of willow branch. So, yeah, you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money, guys. You can craft the tools yourself, or you can just get something that, is affordable to you. It's not really the price tag that matters. I think it's what you do with the tool that matter.
In spirituality, when you start working with these tools, it's very much kind of a domino effect. You start off with a tarot deck and then you start getting some runes. It's like you don't have to have it all at once.
Yeah, you'll slowly work your way into other different types of tools.
And don't ever think you're getting the wrong deck. Don't ever think you're getting the wrong runes. It's your solar plexus
Unless
chakra.
it feels wrong.
Yeah, of course, of
Right.
course. When you're tapping into these things to buy them or work with them, like it'll be in your gut. It will feel right. It'll be in your solar plexus chakra. You need trust in that you're buying the right deck. It's the glass of lemonade that your energy needs for you to open up your spiritual gifts, start your awakening journey.
Yep. Listen to the inner compass and then trust it. I want to give a couple of honorable mentions really quick to some other things that we didn't really have that I think is kind of funny is the one that makes everybody realize they've all done divination at some point, and that's the magic 8 ball. So
there we go.
That's a divination tool, right? People use it in a silly way, but I mean, come on, that's that. What else could that possibly be? Other fun ones that you might have played with as a kid, Ouija boards, right? Those are sold at like every Target and Walmart on the planet. And then I don't remember like the name of it, but do you guys remember the little paper thing that you would do on the playground?
Like you
It
have
was
to,
like a
yeah.
paper fortune tell. I don't know if anybody knows the name of that thing. Put it in the
I think there
comments.
was
I'm going to call it the
also-
paper fortune thing.
There was also MASH.
But that's like
Too.
playground divination right there, right? So it's like don't overcomplicate it. We've all done this stuff. And so just, go with what feels right to you, experiment, play around with it. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be fun. So, and then the last one that I want to give honorable mention to is scrying, which scrying could be done with almost anything. I like to do it with a black crystal ball, but you could do it with water or fire, or a mirror, right? Scrying's definitely one of those systems that has also just been around for a really, really long time, right? Just kind of looking into a reflective surface or something where you can kind of just get lost in the image and let the message come through.
That is the one that Nostradamus is very well known for, is scrying, and he was always said to look in a shallow plate of water.
I've played around with scrying in a mirror.
As have I.
I want to say I did it a lot when I was like younger as a kid. I would kind of sit in front of the mirror and like disassociate, to be honest with you. And I would start to see images of other people, animals, and things kind of overlay my face in the mirror. And I would get these different feelings and sensations along with the different faces and things that I was seeing, not realizing at the time that I was actually scrying, kind of disassociating in the mirror. But hey, but yeah, that's kind of a little example about like kind of what scrying is like you'll start to see things and have different feelings as you're staring into this space, a reflective space.
And so, folks, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out and ask. We're definitely looking for more information and to get out there and spread the light. And you had also come down to Crystal Magic Psychic Center. We have a lot of readers here that work with a lot of different tools. That's one of the things that I like about being here is everybody is very eclectic with their skills and what they do and how they work with things. So there's definitely someone here that has the style.
All right,
for
there's
you.
something for everybody.
For sure.
All right. So, with that being said, guys, thank you for hanging out with us and watching or listening, whatever you chose to do. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. All that stuff really helps us get some momentum moving behind this thing.
Show us some love.
Yeah, show us some love, right? And like Jeffrey said, if you got questions about things we already talked about, if there's things that you want to hear us dig deeper into, if there's things we didn't even, touch on, let us know in the comments and we will try to get to all that stuff in future episodes. Follow us on social media. So you can go to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. You can follow the center. So it's Crystal Magic Psychic Center. Is it CM Psychic Center on TikTok or is it Crystal?
On TikTok, it is CM
Okay,
Psychic
so
Center.
CM, like Crystal Magic Psychic Center. And then if you are interested in following us personally on social media, mine on Instagram and TikTok is Sedona Relic. I know you're on social media.
I mainly use the Crystal Magic Psychic Center platform for a lot of my videos, just because I like to keep things a little separate from my personal life as well.
Same.
No offense to anybody, but I like to keep my work at my work and then my personal life, my personal life.
And all three of us do have a lot of videos up on Instagram through Crystal Magic Psychic Center
Yeah.
already. So you can definitely find some videos about how to smudge and clear energy for me and work with different crystals, things like
But
that.
if
We all have different
right, and
stuff.
if you want to subscribe, like we have a YouTube and we are also on Spotify as the Sedona Psychics for the podcast. I know we're kind of throwing out a lot of different names here, but I promise you they're all linked together and you won't get lost.
Plus, feel free to come say hi if you guys are in Sedona. We are literally here 7 days a week. So come stop by, say hi, sit on the crystal chair out in the front lobby, get a reading, whatever you're drawn to do.
And I would like to announce that our third episode, which is going on the fourth, I would like to announce that our fourth episode is going to be about vortexes. The vortexes here in Sedona, what they are, how to work with them, what the different energies are, different techniques for getting in. Relic and I have rewrote the Sedona vortex. This is have Yes, Sedona, Relic and I have 5741. Relic and I have rewritten the Sedona Vortex Guide, and it is the most world's phenomenal vortex guide for free in the universe, just so you know. And we're going to be talking all about that on the next episode.
Yeah, so if you're into vortexes, you'll make sure you want to tune in for the next one. Again, thank you guys for stopping by.
I'm Jeffrey, and namaste. The light in me honors the light in you.
I'm MA and stay magical.